All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a second look at Matt Piscatella's data set that he put out just about a day ago. A few comments have actually piqued my interest in this particular regard because apparently there might be some things that I missed. So JessB5280 pointed this out in my video where I said this is an Xbox confirmed as PlayStation single-handedly skyrockets Call of Duty, blah, 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 blah. And we talked about the 82% increase in, say, I guess the 82% responsibility that PlayStation had for Call of Duty full game sales. So shout out to this audience member of mine. They said, I think you're slightly misinterpreting the numbers. Matt Piscatella specifically says full game sales because they don't track people who, for instance, purchase the Vault Edition upgrade through Game Pass. Xbox themselves do not consider this a full game sale. Given the existence of Game Pass, it makes sense that the vast majority of full game sales are on PlayStation. It's what should be expected and is in line with what was reported earlier this week that Xbox is the largest platform for Call of Duty now. Very well put. I saw that data set about Xbox being the biggest platform for Call of Duty, but I never made the correlation. And I think this is a clearer, shout out to our audience member here, reading of what the data set is putting out there. Because again, sure, there's that, there's this particular data set. It's a reality right here. I mean, if you think about what, is written all through here, it's pretty much showing that it, number one, increased video game spending by 10%. That was a boost that Call of Duty pretty much put in place. And then again, what happened is the increase was driven primarily in October by the launch of Call of Duty in terms of gaming as a whole the entire year. Then non-mobile video game subscription spending also increased 16%. And the release of Call of Duty was the driver for that. So I think we're seeing this boost happen in the Xbox ecosystem more, with regard to where people are playing the games. Now, there are other platforms where they can also subscribe to play the games, but, again, Game Pass is primarily the one that is the best value. Like, even if you had GeForce Now, I just don't see any way a person would not have GeForce Now and even entertain the thought of Game Pass as a whole. Then the final piece was pretty much PlayStation, accounted for 82% of Call of Duty, Black Ops total console full game dollar sales volume during the October tracking period. So what the implications of this is, even though you had this huge surge in terms of full game sales, Game Pass is still a primary driver for income streams for the entirety of Xbox's strategy. And this is also confirmed if we actually take one hop step back to go ahead and see this particular document that I always cite, that some PlayStation fanboys have been trying to dismiss for months, by the way. It makes sense that what they feared or what they felt threatened by, the day one, implementation of Call of Duty was going to pretty much, put them in a strange place. So look at it. It says day and date threat. Post acquisition, Microsoft will put Activision games on Game Pass day and date. So this particular threat here is pretty much what PlayStation was highlighting, and I think is what's pretty much come to fruition because, again, when considered with the subscription 50%, console games 50%, and PC 60%, this is a major, in my opinion anyways, bodying of PlayStation's entire paradigm. And I think that's just, one thing that we as a community of gamers, for the most part, have had to come to terms with because this was a reality going on in the minds of PlayStation. But for the most part, the media was trying all kinds of different spins. Then you had PlayStation hyper fanboys also trying all kinds of different spins as well in order to minimize what the effect of this could look like. Right now, even with PlayStation, trying to acquire Kadokawa, or maybe Kadokawa, is going to let them have From Software or not, or with all of that, that still does not put in the indentation of what this Call of Duty annual revenue source and stream is going to be doing for Xbox. And Xbox knew they had the money, so they basically are deciding that they were going to go ahead and outspend PlayStation. Now, are they going to try to outspend PlayStation out of business? I think right now they're waiting for PlayStation's next move And, well, they're doing their thing. They're expanding their ecosystem. They're making Game Pass a lot more, I would say user friendly. They're making Game Pass a lot more of a phenomenon in the sense that it can provide and deliver games. But in terms of what, this particular value proposition does, it really destroys even PlayStation's bid for exclusivity and third-party exclusivity and all of that. They're just games, right? Games are what gamers have always been interested in, whether or not they play the game, whether or not they subscribe to play the game, whether or not they buy the game, whether or not they rent the game, whether or not they borrow the game. Hey, if you were born in the days when we used to borrow games and could borrow games, I mean, physically, yes, that's something that gamers have always cherished. And even PlayStation themselves understood it and have always understood that, because many of you know PlayStation has, in my opinion, and for all the faults that you will see me hold PlayStation for, the account sharing possibility within PlayStation is super fun, because you and friends, you can pretty much share games in that regard. They even had a game sharing system back in the day where somebody could log in and you can basically, take control of a game that they own and you could play it. Those, systems were always in place, and PlayStation understood that even back in the PS4 days. That's when that, methodology was there. And I remember it being, on my PS4, me and, some friends would talk about a game and they'll be like, hey, can I try the game? And if the internet connection permitted, you could go ahead and actually do that. Or we would account share, at the time, just before you knew if you can buy the game. Game Pass looks at this and says, you know what? You don't even need to worry. Just give a small fee every month, and you would have access to a huge, massive library of video games. And not just that, day one video games. Bethesda games going in day one. Activision games going in day one. I mean, there's just nowhere you can find such value for a small fee. So shout out to our audience member that pretty much put this to my attention. I strongly believe that this is definitely where the industry was going all this while. And for the most part, people did not want us to see this. A lot of the noise has now settled down, and you can already see, even from Matt Piscatella's data set, that the spending even also correlates with the highest game. So if you look at October 2024, the top 20 best-selling games, physical and full digital, from Nintendo all the way through Steam and Xbox as well, ranked in dollar sales. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is number 1. That's insane. And then Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, and then all the other games, and Metaphor also made its way there. Dragon Age Veilguard made its way in the top 10, but again, you'd have to estimate that month itself. And I'm, in a place where I think that Call of Duty sales will just continue to roll in. Even Elden Ring made its way in the top 20. I mean, I guess the discounts are helping. That's one game that I've seen From Software discount even more than they have Sekiro. Like, their Sekiro game, that game hardly goes on a discount. I mean, I want to play it on PC. I don't know why. I have it on Xbox because it went on sale, and then I bought it the next day. It went on sale on Steam. I was so, not the next day, maybe the next week after I played a few hours, and then I was like, I can't return this and buy this on Steam. But maybe if it steeps lower during the Steam sale this year, I might just double dip in regard to that. But again, it's very interesting. And if you come back and you see even the lingering on the, say, number 10 spot, number 9 spot, these are those those EA Sports games that are just sitting here and just farming dough, consistently. NHL 25, even NBA 2K25. That's not an EA game, but that game has already, it's already gone all the way down, only for the, EA games. Look at EA, guys. I mean, EA is a silent killer, bro. Like with these sports games that, for the most part, some of us have abandoned, man, there are still people who that's all they play, or they'll play that and Call of Duty and maybe another live service game. And so it's very interesting to see all of this come together nonetheless. But let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys' time and audience. Please give feedback like this. It really does help, and we can get things more accurately, or at least get better context when it comes to the discussions and conversations that we have. Thanks again. Peace out.